Breakfast with Cobb Colvin.
Trickstar Radio.
Just gone at 20 minutes past 8 here on Trickstar Radio. We're inside the building. Man like Aranha is with us this morning. How are you doing, sir? You all good?
Yep.
Good to hear. Right then, let's jump into another bit of conversation then. We've sort of touched on the labels sort of side of things. So you run two labels, if I'm right in thinking. So talk me through the process.
So first label I started was Soul Food, which, like I said earlier, sort of 160 based. Honestly, releases have been a little slower than I would have liked, but I mean, just because of the fewer numbers of people producing that sort of sound.
So when you say, like, what sort of sound is Soul Food pretty much based around?
So footwork, but the idea was to try to get sort of like a UK interpretation of that. So that's it. I feel UK producers have a very specific sound just in terms of production, where in comparison to like the American sort of footwork scene, where it's very...
Well, it seems to be almost very like hip hop influenced.
That's exactly it. Whereas here,
isn't it called like Jersey Club out there? Isn't that like a similar thing?
I think, yeah, that's like a sister genre in a way. But that's it. It's that more sort of like lo-fi sort of hip hoppy sort of aesthetic. Whereas that's it. I kind of like the idea of getting that like cleaner sort of UK.
From what I've heard of the UK stuff, primarily from like reviewing it a lot of the time, there tends to be a lot of jungle influence scattered in there, and there does tend to be a fair bit of grimy influence in there as well. It seems to be the sort of thing. Yeah,
no, that was exactly it. I like that combination of the sounds. Hence, I did the EP doing 160 refixes of grime tunes, because that's it. To me, that's a sort of perfect synthesis.
Wicked, man. So we're going to be looking forward then. Let's jump forward a little bit to sort of the formation of Dead Pest. So how long were you running Soul Food before Dead Pest came around?
So our first Soul Food release was end of would have been end of 2018, so about a year or so really. And like I say, things have definitely been slower than I would have liked, but
I don't think you can kind of rush a label process, though. I think a lot of the time you have to make sure things are right, and you don't want to just be releasing music for the sake of having consistent releases. You know what I mean?
Definitely,
I feel when you're putting like these projects together, you need to make sure that you are happy with every single one, especially when you're a moderately new label as well. You want to make sure that you are hitting consistency early on with a record label is so important, I find.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, from my point of view, a lot of it is curation. And so, I don't necessarily want to be putting out everything that gets sent to me. I want to kind of, focus on the kind of sound I want to be putting out.
On the stuff that ticks the boxes rather than the stuff that hits the inboxes.
Yeah,
I've just coined that. I'm keeping that.
Trademarked.
But yeah, so now we've kind of moved forward to a scenario where, as you mentioned before, you're kind of you're making dubstep, as is your brother, and you're both kind of looking for the right labels to take stuff, and you kind of think, let's do it ourselves. Yeah. So how do you then go about forming a second label? Were there any changes in the process of building it, or?
Not particularly. I mean, just having someone else to help me run it's just been quite useful, just in terms of, speaking to other people in the scene and just trying to get a sort of bead on who's interested and who would want to get involved, really.
So like how many releases have you had to this point then?
With Dead Pest?
Yeah.
At the moment, none so far as yet. We've done like a few like free downloads.
They count though. They count.
Okay, so we've had two of those then.
You've had two free releases. Were they sort of compilations or just single drops?
Just single sort of free downloads. But the plan is that we're in the process of getting a big compilation together, and then like I say, I've got an EP ready to go. My brother's got one as well, and we're speaking to other people and trying to...
Wicked, man. Like, I think compilations are a very good way. Although they can go a bit overboard a lot of the time, I think compilations are a very good way to sort of launch a project, because it gives you almost like a prospectus of the sort of things, the sort of sounds you could be witnessing over the next couple of years.
That's exactly like a taster.
Like very, very much a taster. Like, I think... a lot of the time, you do have to be careful with them a lot of the time, because you'll find some people are putting out like 30, 40 track compilations, and tracks get lost, especially in that sort of footworky field, I tend to find. A lot of the time, releases come out and there's like 45 tracks on them, a different one producer's got 7 tracks on there, other producers have got like one collaboration, and it's like it gets almost a little bit lost and jumbled a lot of the time. How would you stop that happening?
So, I mean, with the first Soul Food compilation, I think that was about 12 tracks or so, and that was it. I've basically not too much longer than a standard album would be, really, Because that's it. To expect someone to listen to, 3 and a bit hours of music
these days, more than sort of 12 tracks, I think, is like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, realistic. I mean, I say that South Point put out a 20-track compilation every Christmas, but that's like, it's almost like a flagship at this point. People know what to expect with it. I feel when you're like dropping something almost out of the blue, to not out of the blue, but like almost like the first time this has happened, you do have to be careful that you don't almost like push people away with the amount of content that's there.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, where we were starting up, and obviously we're going to be sending promos out and stuff like that, you actually want people to listen to it and listen to it in full. Because the producers have put their time and effort into it.
Rather than just going, 50 tracks, I won't.
That's it, just skip a minute into each track and give it about 5 seconds worth of play. Like,
no, you don't want that.
You want people to be able to take it.
You want people to be actually to genuinely enjoy it as well a lot of the time. So coming up next, we're going to jump into our track of the week. Are you a Disclosure fan?
Bits and bobs.
Bits and bobs. They've got a new track out with Khalid. This is their new single. It's their first thing they've released in over a year, I believe, which is called See. I'm a big fan of Disclosure myself. Just gone 27 minutes past 8 here. We are live on Trickstar Radio. Man like Arana's in the building, and we are talking about labels, new releases, and much, much more. Don't go anywhere.
Waking up Brighton.
Breakfast with Cobb Colvu.